Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Talk Scottish Football. I'm your host, Ryan Fitzsimons. Co-host David Buick. How you doing, son?
You're a struggle with second names today, aren't you?
I know, it's happened all morning. We were on the college call. I was getting slagged rotten for my speech impediment, it would seem. I've not even got a speech impediment. Just when you put me on the spot, that's it. It's game over. And
you're like 2010 Jack Swagger.
Do you know what was great there? The fact that you said, I do remember that, but it's the fact that you said you like 3 times there, so that's put some comfort on me. Thank you.
Oh, nice.
You stuttered as much as I do. But
anyway, on to important stuff. Yeah, we've got a playoff game Thursday night.
Scotland international break, yeah. We all love it. Do we? Do we love it?
I mean, for you it's an international break. For me, it's not, because, you know, you're getting tonight, baby, so, you know.
Yeah, it's a big day. That's a video in itself, of course, but we're not here to talk about that, sadly. But that's a good thing. On the other hand, for the people who do listen to the main podcast series every week, we will be covering the Championship, League 1 and League 2 again very soon, the Betfred Cup also. But yes, the biggest game Scotland have had in perhaps the last 20 years. We have touched on it. The dress rehearsal was rotten, but it's the full-time show now. We've got Scotland taking on Israel in the playoff game. How are you feeling going into it, son?
I'm not really fussed, mate, and it's so annoying because
you're not fussed
last month. I'm just not arsed because of how deflating the last international break was. I probably will be come Thursday. I'll be excited for it and looking forward to it. But if this was this time last month, like the last international break, I was really excited because I thought, right, we got a good couple of results here, which we actually did. A decent couple of results, but the performances were miles off it, and I think everyone's in the same thing just now. They just can't. I don't think anyone can really be arsed, and without a crowd at Hampden on Thursday night, the players are going to need to build some sort of not motivation, but they need to get themselves going, and you know, for a change, the team are going to have to pick up the fans rather than the other way around. So we'll see how they do.
I know it's a weird situation that everybody's found themselves in Scotland. And you know what, you're talking about they're going to have to do it. They're used to playing with no fans there anyway, but of course that would have been an occasion on Thursday. It would have been huge. Ourselves were meant to go. That would have been my first ever Scotland game. We were meant to go together and enjoy that, but the team know what's at stake. We have got the quality in the team. Israel are no mugs though. We know that.
Yeah.
They're a side who are well equipped. Of course, 2 boys we know very well, and they're Beaton and Hatem Abdel Ahmed.
We're missing it, won't he? So
he'll potentially be out.
Some good news, I suppose.
You're looking at a team that are going to be as hungry as us and certainly can deal damage. Steve Clarke, will he fall into the trap that many Scotland managers have over the past 20 years? The complacency, the last gasp being the one that just takes it out of us. You know, it's that final hurdle that we always seem to fall over. You remember Strachan a few years back. Hopefully Clarke doesn't now. Of course, this game isn't as big as what the next game will be. We go on, if we go through,
the next game,
we'll play Norway or Serbia.
Yeah.
And that's pretty grim because either of those teams have the potential to absolutely batter us. But we take it one game at a time, and we look forward to this. We find ourselves in a situation the same as we talk about all the time with Scotland. The middle of the park, the midfield, absolutely incredible. Up front, options are scarce. Lee Griffiths is back scoring goals. Would be nice if he was available.
If he'd have done that a month earlier.
Yep, he could have been in there, and he would have been up front right away. Defensively, once again, we are torrid, but we can only use what we have. And yes, the excitement probably will build for myself. I do echo what you're saying in the sense that right now I'm not exactly buzzing about this. Time kickoff comes around, I'm sure it will be quite the occasion. A couple of drinks to celebrate.
Well, hopefully celebrate, but you know, I think it's such a tough one because we've played Israel so much recently. 3 games, a win for Israel, a win for Scotland, and a draw. So it's finally poised. Home advantage isn't what it would have been under normal circumstances, so that's kind of not really a factor.
Yep.
Listen, I have absolutely no doubts in my mind that Scotland, the squad that we've got, the squad of players we've got, is more than good enough to beat Israel, and it is good enough to beat Norway or Serbia. I believe that the squad of players we have, I believe it's good enough, absolutely.
I think you're looking at a Scotland squad
the team, the way they performed recently, no, but I believe that the squad is good enough. I think there's enough ability in there, enough players playing at a high level to cause any team's problems.
You look at John McGinn's performance the other night against the champions of England.
Yeah, absolutely.
You look at players like that, but the thing is, I totally agree. I think if you overall take the squads into account, you look at player by player. Against Norway and Serbia, we have got a better side. And this is ultimately, we may be having this conversation for absolutely no reason, because ultimately knowing us, we'd end up going out on Thursday night. But, you know, we have got a squad that's better than Norway and Serbia, but people obviously will highlight the fact that Norway's got their Erling Haalands, their Mohamed El Younusis, their Christopher Ayers.
But then Mohamed El Younusi's hardly set the Scottish Premiership alight this season as of yet. So
is it Haaland though? Is Haaland the one?
Oh no, of course.
I'm
not even saying when I'm saying that I believe in the squad. That doesn't necessarily mean I think they're better. I just think that they have the ability to beat them. I mean,
they do.
I've absolutely no doubts about that, and I think it will be absolutely typical Scotland. I think Scotland will win on. Get us all finally excited. Maybe have a decent couple of results in the Nation Leagues games, and then for the playoff final, we'll all be looking forward to it, and then the usual will probably happen. But team news. That's what we're going to do in this video because we did this video months ago,
and it was quite good. Of course, I was the victor of the first one. We predicted the squad.
Was the victor, mate, it ended up being irrelevant. So,
but how things have changed since then, we look back.
That's the mad thing. Actually, I haven't even checked.
I know. I would love to go back and check the comparison of both squads, but even from then, there has been a systematic change in Scotland. A lot of people, including myself, are potentially looking at the chance to go with a different formation, a different style, with the players who have been playing well and who haven't. Back then, I was set on the team that I picked as being the one to start. I did win the poll. I will reiterate once more.
Shall I quickly run us through what teams we had picked? So
on you go, Dale. Give us a trip down memory lane.
We did this video on the 2nd of February this year. Looking quite a bit ahead to what would have been the playoff in June, but at the time, what was our ideal Scotland 11?
Funnily enough, that was back before they knew what you looked like.
It was,
Aye.
So there's some interesting. There's one interesting pick in your team that'll get a bit of a slagging. But we both had David Marshall in goal.
Yep.
We both had Kieran Tierney at right back. So there's an interesting call. I had Declan Gallagher and Liam Cooper as my centre halves. You had Scott McKenna and John Suter as your centre halves. We both had Robertson at left back. I had a midfield three of McTominay, McGinn, and Fleck. You had a midfield three of Callum McGregor, McGinn, and Christie.
Bloody John Fleck.
And the front three, yours was Forrest, Griffiths, and Fraser, and mine was Christie, Griffiths, and Fraser. So, strong teams, but maybe a bit different from what we'll see on Thursday.
Oh, mine's very, well, not very different, but you're looking at potentially some big calls that really make a difference to what my side was originally heading into this game. And that all comes down to obviously form, timing, injuries, everything else that you could throw in. We look at ourselves in a completely different circumstance now. So, are we going to kick on with it then? Are we going to go and give our predicted lineup, what the lineups we want to see, preferred 11s?
I think we'll quickly touch on predicted at the end, maybe, because I think our predictions of what will happen are both different to what we'll prefer to happen.
Oh, aye. They will be.
So I think maybe one of the ways to do this is you'll put the graphics on screen so people can see.
Of course.
Of course. I think there's a few nailed on shouts. I think there's a few, and we'll start with the goalie, and it's nailed on. It's David Marshall.
It's David Marshall, but let's not forget that John McLaughlin has had an impressive showing so far since signing for Rangers. I don't think that merits him to start in this team, and I imagine there will be a lot of Rangers fans crying for McLaughlin to start when you look at his clean sheet record, his performance against, who was it? Was it Hibs? Was he playing in goals against Hibs? He was quite good. Made a few good saves. He has been good. But let's not forget, David Marshall in the last international break was really impressive too. Now, we shouldn't have conceded almost as many chances as we did in those games. We were poor, but Marshall was there to keep them out. And he's also been impressive down south as well so far this season. So for me,
he's been so good for Scotland for so long that it's impossible to not play him, I think, just now. Craig Gordon moved to Hearts to try and get game time to get back in the Scotland team. This comes too early for him. McLaughlin's done well, but there's no grounds to be dropping David Marshall. Now he's playing with Derby and a really good game at the weekend for them, so he goes in next for me. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Because
so first of all, we have to talk about formations, don't we?
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going to go. So Steve Clarke, last two games, opted for a 3 at the back, 5 at the back, whatever you want to call it. He went with 3 defenders and wing backs. Now, Ryan Fitzsimons, what formation? Or how many are you going to play at the back, basically?
I have gone for the 5-3-2, my son.
Wow, okay.
I've gone for 5 at the back.
We've immediately differentiated because I've got 4. So
that's good because that gives the people a different option now, doesn't it? And not in just terms of personnel, but the system.
Because it's not as easy to run through position by position. We'll start with the first of your back three. Who's the first man in your back three?
Of the centre halves, yes. The first one I have got in there is Big Cooper of Leeds.
Nice. So he's playing the right of you for 3.
He is playing on the right of my 3, yes.
Okay.
So are you happy this time that I've not got left-footed centre halves everywhere?
No, we'll see. We'll see.
Okay.
So my right back, and it might be. I think I can already see a few people are going to disagree with this, but I'm basing it off, the tail end of before COVID, at the end of the Scotland games before then. Scotland had done okay. I think we'd won 3 in the bounce or something like that. We'd started playing well. We'd had a balanced shape, and at right back was Liam Palmer, and he was very, very solid. He played against Czech Republic as one of the wing backs in that system we talked about with Clark, and the difference in terms of the balance of the team having Palmer in that role instead of Forrest, I thought was night and day. And I think that he's been Scotland's right back now for a wee while. He's played quite a lot of football. Clark trusts him. And in terms of other right backs, I mean, I definitely want to go for a forward. I'll come on to my reasons for that. So I need a right back. There are a couple of options. I mean, Stephen O'Donnell, he's not had a great season at Motherwell. Callum Patterson hasn't played right back for a long time. We know he can do a job there. And obviously Kieran Tierney's an option as well. But obviously I've left him for another position in this team. But Liam Palmer goes in at right back for me.
Fair enough. Right, I'll go into my second centre half then.
Yeah.
I've gone for, sadly, Scott McKenna. Who's just got himself a big move, of course, down to England, Nottingham Forest now. He has left Aberdeen finally after years of speculation. For me, he goes in just now purely because, we spoke about it before, we haven't got a great depth of quality centre-halves. I'm not a big fan of McKenna, but he does make it in.
Okay. So my centre-halves, my right-sided centre-half is Liam Cooper. I think that, as you said, we don't have great centre-halves.
He started 3 Premier League games all this season.
Started 3 Premier League games so far, and a Leeds team that have done well. A Leeds team that held Man City at the weekend, and he did well. So I was impressed with him. I've cried for a long time now that he deserves a run of games as Scotland centre-half, similar to what McKenna has had. And I think for me, in terms of the natural centre-halves, he's the best option. So he goes in on the right for me.
Fair enough. And finally, my last centre-half, I am going to go for the man himself, Mr. Celtic as he once was, but now Mr. Arsenal. I'm going for Kieran Tierney to join the 3 at the back system. Perfect.
I mean, that left of a back 3 is probably the perfect position for Tierney. He's doing it for Arsenal as well, and with Robbo, it makes a lot of sense to have him left of a back 3. I've got in my team, I've got him left of a back 2, which is maybe going to raise some eyebrows. Right. Kieran Tierney is my left centre half in my back 4. Listen, I don't think there are many better. Actually, he's probably the best defender Scotland have in terms of an actual.
Yeah, in terms of defensive ability,
he's probably the best one.
I wouldn't dispute that because
you
know how critical I am of McKenna. I don't think Robertson's the best defender in the world. Tierney is certainly better than Cooper, Gallagher, and anybody else there. For me, you're spot on with that. I think Tierney is defensive ability wise the best option we've got.
Yeah, I just think that even if he's not as good as left of a back 2 as he is left of a back 3, he's still going to be, for me, better than any other options we could have there. I think he's that good. He's playing at a really good level. He's playing really, really well. He's an important part of the team. Steve Clark wants him playing regularly. And there are a number of positions you can put him in. Listen, your position is a naturally better position. I just don't want to go with the 3-5-2. We'll explain this a lot about at the end in terms of why we're going for each formation. But for me, he has to get in the team. You play him on the left side, inside Andy Robertson. I'm more than happy with him there.
It's weird. No one would have thought when he was at Celtic that he would ever get converted into this sort of position. He was bombing up and down that wing. He was a proper left back. So it's weird. But so I'll move on to my right wing back then.
Yeah.
I am joining you and saying everything you said as well. I've took Palmer. I've got him playing there. He done well in the system, I thought, as you've already touched on, when Clark had him there in the last international break. So not much else to add. Palmer goes in there for me.
Nice, solid shout. So I'll move on then to my left back, which is obviously Andy Robertson.
Big Robbo.
We don't need to say an awful lot more than that.
Of course not. The captain of the national team,
I think we tried him at left wing back in the last games. And I think people have this conception in their head that because Robertson's such an attacking fullback for Liverpool, he would suit left wing back completely naturally. It's not always as simple as that. I'm happy with him at left back. I think that it is utterly impossible for Andy Robertson to perform to the level he does with Scotland as he does with Liverpool. Look who's around him. I think it's impossible. How
right enough.
He hasn't got Sadio Mane in front of him. He hasn't got Virgil
Van Dijk beside him. Then
and that Liverpool team, he is not expected to thrive. Really, like when you think about it, if you look at the players that the pressure is on, you look at the front 3, you look at guys in the middle, Van Dijk, all the rest of it. Robertson in the Scotland team is expected to be the best player. he's just expected to be. And it's not always that easy for a left back, who's playing with a team he doesn't play with regularly at international level. So, listen, I'm happy with Robbo in there. He'll do absolutely fine.
Fair enough. You said it well. Hopefully he steps up and does give us a Liverpool type performance. So that's all I can say. Right, moving into the middle of the park. Then you're going for what? So you went for a back four. How you go? So you're going 4-2-3-1.
4-3-3.
Right. Well, 4-2-3. Okay. Right.
So it's all very fluid.
Right. I'll kick us off then. For the first of my two kind of defensive midfielders, my two holding midfielders, you could say, I have gone for Callum McGregor. I don't see how he doesn't get in this team. He's been just as good this year as he has any other year for Celtic. Mr. Consistent. I don't need to add much else. He has played really well in this 5-3-2 system for Celtic, in the sense that I feel like in the 4-2-3-1, Callum McGregor was strangled from playing his best. I feel like because we had Christie ahead of him, he was given a more defensive role. And yes, of course, when we play 5-3-2, there's still someone ahead of him, but because we've got a different system and players dropping in other areas, I feel like he can get forward more in that system. So I think for Scotland, they can do the same thing, and that's why I've gone Callum McGregor.
Perfect, right. Well, I've gone with sort of three in the middle. I've got one kind of sitting with two kind of either side. My set midfield is Callum McGregor as well. There's a couple of options for this. Go McTominay there. McTominay doesn't make my team, which is a surprise to me, if I'm honest, because I would have liked maybe to have got them in there.
As long as he's not centre half, though.
I just that's what I'll come to. I'm not. I think Callum McGregor has to play as well. I think he's done so well for Scotland and for Celtic. In terms of getting the ball moving quickly, starting things off from a deep possession, he's great. And the guys ahead of him as well. I think when you see my guys as a three, it'll make even more sense.
Right, okay, beside Callum McGregor, I'll go for the man that you've just admitted to leaving out, and that is Scott McTominay. I've got him in beside McGregor. Look, Man United have been anything but great this season. We know that. Just off the back of a 6-1 loss to Tottenham Hotspur, for God's sake. Tough watch there. But Scott McTominay, I think, possesses the talent to sit deeper when McGregor does want to venture forward. Of course, he played centre-back for Steve Clarke in the last international break. Scott McTominay, for me, is a top player. I really like him. I've always liked him. And I think he's one of Scotland's best outfield players too. If we perfect him right across the middle of that park, kind of ball-winning midfielder, sitting in a kind of Scott Brown role, if you like, I think that could be very beneficial for both the team and himself. So Scott McTominay goes in beside McGregor for me.
Okay, perfect. Listen, McTominay is someone who I thought long and hard about whether he was on the team, not quite made it. Ahead of, I've got McGregor sitting either side. I'll go slightly to the right. McGregor as one of my three. Super John McGinn. Obviously, he's got to be in that team. One of the nailed-on players in this team.
Yep.
Fantastic.
He's the best outfield player Scotland have got. In my eyes, I think he's better than Andy Robertson. I think he's more important than Andy Robertson. I know you're making that face a lot. Look,
John, it's a bold claim, but listen, he was voted Scotland National Team Player of the Year last year. There's a reason for that. He was so good for Scotland. He kept scoring goals.
I think John McGinn is someone who could easily walk into a team like any top 4 team. I think maybe not into the starting 11 straight away, but he's definitely an asset. That I think he's so unique. He's so unique. The way he gets about the park. He's that sort of...
He uses that backside.
Of course. He's a sort of Mazzara player who's just runs around like a headless chicken, but not to the extent where he's just not knowing what he's doing. Everything he does has meaning. Defensively, he can be solid.
We need goals as well. Listen, we weren't creative enough. We need goals. You want goal scorers in that team. He's done it for Scotland before. I trust him that he'll do it again.
And I may as well touch on that. In front of McGregor and McTominay, I've got McGinn. I've got him playing in the attacking midfield role. And of course, we wouldn't normally see McGinn sitting at an attack midfield role. I think he would be benefited by moving behind whoever, say Christie was in there, or John Fleck, whoever was playing in an attack midfielder role. McGinn would normally sit in behind him, but McGinn has showed the flexibility for Scotland to play off the right-hand side, be very attacking, and ultimately, if you've got McGregor and McTominay behind him, I think that's perfect. I like the idea of it. That's why I've got him there. And I've already said everything I need to. Everybody knows how big a fan of John McGinn I am. He's one of my favourite players in world football. And hopefully he does the business on Thursday night.
Perfect, yeah. I mean, we could sit here and rant and rave about John McGinn for a whole
It's a show in itself,
Yeah, absolutely. Right, listen, to finish off my midfield three is, this guy is going to be absolutely crucial. If I was setting a Scotland team, I want him to be crucial because, listen, I think for Scotland to beat Israel on Thursday night, we need tempo, we need intensity, We need a bit of direct running,
John Collins there.
a bit of creativity, scanning. Yeah, Stuart Armstrong is the third man in my midfield.
Oh, you're putting Armstrong in. I thought. Yep.
I love Stuart Armstrong. I think he's so good.
Yep.
We weren't creative enough last time against Israel. He didn't start, and when he came on, he did look bright. I think if you have a midfield three, McGregor, and Armstrong, you're creating things. You're going to go on the front foot. And listen, we're all talking. We always do it about how we're not defensively strong enough, Scotland. But I think attackingly, creatively, we've got a lot, positive. So get Armstrong in there, get in the front foot, good intensity to the midfield. I think he'd be a key player for us on Thursday night if he was to start.
He's one, like you said about McTominay. I sat and thought long and hard about putting Armstrong in my starting 11, but then I did think to myself, like, as much as I love Armstrong, as much as I would love to have him in my starting 11, number one, he doesn't really get into the system anywhere unless I perhaps drop McTominay. And then I thought to myself, you know what? Coming off the bench, Stuart Armstrong's a cracking player to have. That's a good thing for Scotland to turn to if we need to. So I'm fine with Armstrong being on my bench. So that closes out our midfield threes, which means we move on to the final players.
Your shout now, your left wing back, I'm guessing, is Robbo.
Yeah, my left wing back's Robbo. Yeah, of course. We'll skip past that. We don't need to talk about it. Who else has got to go in there? I'm hardly going to shove Greg Taylor in. So,
so I've got a front three, and I mean the one of the three I'm going to give you first is the one that I'm not totally sure about because he's not in great form, but I don't think there's an alternative really. I think even if the alternative was in the squad, he's not in great form either. Really. It's Ryan Christie's going to play off the right for me.
Okay.
Listen, I like Ryan Christie. I really do. I think he's creative. He's got a goal in him. He can make things happen. He's the sort of player you want, in your team. If he's got that in him. A lot of Celtic fans have been frustrated with him this season, maybe trying the difficult option too much, maybe being a bit wasteful in possession. But I think in terms of playing off the right, I don't think there's an alternative in the squad for me. And I think he's still done okay for Scotland in recent times. So yeah, Ryan Christie's off the right for me.
That's one of the main reasons I've gone for the 5-3-2, because on the right-hand side, without Forrest being there, I don't think we've got naturally as good an option. And I don't even think Forrest was playing exactly bang-in form either, but Christie, for me, there was no chance I could have him in my 11.
I think if Forrest was in the squad, he'd start for me on that right-hand side.
Right, okay, so obviously I've gone with two up front, and I'm still torn between one, so I'm going to give the one definite that... for now, and that is of course Lyndon Dykes. I've got Lyndon Dykes up there, the man who scored the 2 goals in the last international break, picking Scotland's national team. Someone who I wasn't too fussed about being a starting striker. If you asked me, I'd have rathered some other people. I'd have rathered Shankland up there, but he impressed me, and he's doing well at QPR. So Dykes for me goes in. I don't think that there's a lot of conversation around that at the moment. I think we're all expecting Dykes to come back into that starting 11 after his last showing. So, Dykes goes in straight away there.
Yeah, so my striker is Lyndon Dykes as well. Listen, he did so well. He was the one bright spark of that last international break. Me and you have been a bit sceptical of Lyndon Dykes, maybe thinking that perhaps he's not merited some of the praise he's got. He kind of shut me up a little bit with that performance last time round. I thought he was really sharp.
I felt really foolish. After his performance.
Scored a goal against Czech Republic, really good goal. Instinctive striker's finish, 6-yard box. The game against Israel at Hampden, we created nothing for him. Absolutely nothing for him. No crosses, nothing. He held up everything. He liked to play up really well. He did everything he could to get us going. And I think if the rest of the team get a bit of form around him, he can be, a really good focal point for the team. Even if it's just at a stage where you have to play off second balls, you have to go long to, you have to hit channels. He's a really good option to have up there. If Lee Griffiths had started scoring a month ago, he's in my team every time, but he's not. So, we've got to do what we've got to do. Lyndon Dykes goes down the middle for me. I was a little bit thinking about Shankland. Part of me thought maybe he'd be the man down the middle. Listen, the guy who I think should be up front isn't even in the body squad. So we'll leave it there. Big Kev sitting at home.
I wish Big Kev got picked. Look, I would have picked him ahead of Ollie Burke anyway.
I'd have started him.
Aye. Right, well, okay, it brings me on to my last player. And I've got a dilemma. So there's 3 options that I have to play up front alongside Lyndon Dykes. First is Lawrence Shankland, of course, which we'll touch on if I pick him. Second is Ollie McBurney, who, as you were talking about earlier,
who's the third?
The third is a man who's played up front this season in this same system, and that's Ryan Christie.
Yeah.
Now,
I was just really worried you were going to say Ollie Burke there.
What if I did? I've tried to back him as much as possible. Look, Christie for me, offers a different dynamic that I don't think my team needs just now. I think McGinn can cover that. I've got McGregor as well. I don't need Christie. So Christie's out the ruling. So it's between Ollie McBurney and Lawrence Shankland. Lawrence Shankland is back. He scored 2 goals in his last 3 games in the Scottish Premiership. And we've got Big McBurney as well, who's doing it down the Premier League. Sheffield United have had a terrible start to the season. So for me, I am going Lawrence Shankland up beside the Lyndon Dykes. Now, I don't know if that partnership will work. Only time would tell. Is it worth the risk? Try it out straight away. Maybe that's why Christie does start, because then you've got Christie who can be more creative. You can put him out the right-hand side. Maybe try him off the left and put McGinn out right. You've got different options you can go about with if Christie's on the park. But I'm going Shankland. I'm going Big Lawrence.
Okay, interesting. Very interesting.
And I think I already know who you've got on the left-hand side of your park.
Yeah, I mean, you said that John McGinn was the best outfield Scottish player. I don't know why you said best outfield Scottish player, as if like a goalie was.
I know.
Anyway, so you think John McGinn's our best player?
Yes, and I don't think who you're about to say is going to. I don't think it comes close.
This is the reason that I've gone 4 at the back to get this guy in the team. Ryan Fraser goes on the left-hand side for me.
Look, I think he's great. I don't think
he's amazing, and I'll tell you what, I think we missed him. I think we really have. I mean, if you look back to those Nation League games that got us this playoff, he was so creative. He was such a threat. Mm-hmm. He's done it at Bournemouth. He's starting to do it at Newcastle.
He looked great at the weekend there.
He's so creative. We know how well he's done with assists in the last few years. If you're looking for a creative spark, something we missed in that last game, Fraser in front of Robertson. Then you can get more out of Robertson. You get the ball into Fraser, you get Robbo around the side, you've got overlapping. Rather than the ball goes straight to Robertson and he's got to beat 3 men and whip a crossing. Take some pressure off Robertson that way by having someone on the wing who is a real threat, and Ryan Fraser absolutely is that. How long would he have in the tank? I mean, he's not played a great deal of football. Thankfully, he is back playing. If you got 65, 70 minutes out of Ryan Fraser, he could be a real difference maker for me, and that's why he rounds off my team.
Fair enough. And look, it's the same thing for me with Fraser.
Two very different teams.
Two very different teams. That makes it interesting for the vote. But for Fraser, it's the same as Armstrong. Like, how long's he got in the tank? Do we waste it early on? I think we save it. I think we desperately need a wee bit of flair in the team. You've got him to come off the bench. It's fantastic. But I must admit, son, you've assembled quite a decent wee team.
Just to touch on formation, I think that, and we'll bring this into a conversation about what we think the 11 will be, because I don't think either of those two are going to be the team.
Probably not.
That's definitely not happening.
Let's be honest now.
I think that Scott McTominay will play at right centre back again, and I think that's a disaster. I think it's a silly decision. He really struggled. I like Scott McTominay, as do you. He struggled against Israel and he struggled against Czech Republic in that position. We didn't look comfortable at all. Apart from Dykes, I don't think there was anything really from that system that was promising. I don't know. I think Steve Clark will go with it, because if he doesn't, it's kind of wasted his preparation in terms of the last camp.
Yep.
I think it was a nightmare, the 3-5-2. I really do. I think it gets the best out of Tierney, and apart from that, I don't get it positionally.
Well, you know, I am installing faith in the man who's going to take us to our first major tournament since 1998, David. That's what I'm doing. Trust the system. Do systems work after 2 games?
They work after 3.
Well, maybe no, right? But
listen, I think with the personnel you've put and the way you've structured it is actually, I would prefer that to what I think Clark will do.
Tactical masterclass.
Because I think he will play McTominay as the back 3, and he struggled so much.
Yep.
He struggled more so with Forrest as the right wing back. I think Palmer gives him a little bit more support. But for me, I think we've just got to go back to a 4. I think it allows us, in terms of having those wingers, getting Christie and Fraser higher up the pitch, gets McGinn in a natural box-to-box role, whereas the last time out, he used McGinn almost as like a right winger. Like, he was so high, and so was Christie.
That's what I was saying.
McGinn for me needs to be a little bit deeper so he can pick up the ball and drive. That's what I want from McGinn. It's what I want from Armstrong, and it's why I've structured it like I have. Yeah, I'm looking at this team more and more. It's more and more I like it, to be honest.
The more I look at my team, the more I think to myself, we're got it, man. We're got it. Yeah, I actually really like my team. I really like it. I would love Steve.
I also think there's a slight chance that we might see Ollie McBurney. A slight chance.
I think there's a slight chance that we'll see Ollie Buck.
No.
You love it, don't lie.
How many international goals are between our strikers? So I don't think Burke's got 1, Shankland's got 1, Dykes has got 1. I think that's it. So
that's rotten, isn't it? That's
rotten.
Absolutely rotten. We just we're so hopeless. It's unbelievable. But it's why you love Scotland, innit? It's why you love the country you're from. Because we're so rotten that you can relate.
So listen, I think we'll win on Thursday night. I really do.
I think
I've
we'll
thought
win.
it for a while, to be honest, because I think if you can get the boys up for it, if you can get McGinn up for it, if you get McGinn at his best, if you can get, that's why I've got Fraser in there. Guys like Fraser and Armstrong, these are guys that can grab a game by the scruff of the neck, make things happen.
If I look at my team just now, if you can get Robertson, Tierney, McGinn, McGregor at their best, you don't even need a striker. Right enough, that's 4 players off the bat who should be doing their job. This
is why I've gone with 1 striker, and I'm a bit confused to why you've gone with 2, because we've just talked about how rubbish our striking options are. And you've gone with 2 of them.
Do you know why I've gone with 2? Right, these are physical, rough you up, get the game just aggressive going strikers. You know, they're strikers who are able to, I don't know, bring a difference.
The thing is with Shankland, though, if you give Shankland a chance, he'll probably score the goal.
And see Shankland, right? So I've got Shankland in there. I think Shankland he has opportunities from outside the area all the time. He does his best with them. I think he's fantastic. You've got Dykes who can get in and be a poacher. And with the 2 of them as well, look, if desperate, if needs come to must, you launch a ball up to these guys or sticking an apple on it, I'm telling you. So a wee bit of Sam Allardyce football, a wee bit of Roy Hodgson football in there.
To be honest, I couldn't care how we do it as long as we do it. If we can get through this one, and then we've got, listen, we'll do some content in the rest of the games because we've got Slovakia and who's the other team we're playing? Czech Republic, also on this international break. So if we can win this, I don't care how we do it, by hook or by crook, we win that, get a couple of decent performances, come a final, we'd all be buzzing. Listen, you never know with Scotland. I think we'll win it, but we'll see.
Well, that does it then. Have we got anything else to add before we wrap up the show, Mr. Buick?
Not really, but hopefully this will be our last Zoom video.
Oh, I know, big things to come. Oh, this is it. This could potentially be the last Zoom video. All depends when we can get stuff sorted and all the rest of it. But you're coming back down the road, huh?
Yeah, mate. And we'll have some content post-match, hopefully, and then previewing the last 2 games, as well as the Betfred Cup and the Championship, which is obviously returning very soon. So much football,
and nobody can even call us out for the whole "can he visit other household" shenanigans, you know.
Exactly, it's going to be great.
Brilliant.
Keep tuned in for more fantastic.
It's going to be a big week for Talk Scottish Football. If you have enjoyed, you know what to do. Make sure to hit like and subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify as well, make sure to share out the podcast. Of course, if you've been listening to Spotify, you won't have the graphics on screen, so unlucky for some. But I'm sure if you're a football
pad and pen, you'll be sorted.
Exactly. And of course, share the video on YouTube as well. Get as many people involved. Share the channel. It's all good stuff, and there's all more to come.
Score predictions in the comments. That's what we want as well. Score predictions in the comments. Quickly, Ryan, score prediction. Scotland, Israel.
2-0 to the mighty Israel. 2-0 to Scotland. 2-0 to Scotland. There we go.
I think it's going to be 3-0 to Scotland.
3? Oh, you're ambitious, huh? I'll tell you what. If it's 3-0, I'll buy you a pint.
3-0. John McGinn at the double and Shankland off the bench to make it 3.
Right, fair enough. Right, well, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. As I've already said, like, subscribe, share, and we'll see you all next time.